Good morning.
Good morning. This is Commissioner Sarr.
Okay. Based on my count, it's now 9:01, and we do have a quorum of commissioners. So I'd like to call this September 15th, 2022 meeting of the Kentucky Commission on Human Rights to order. Mr. Executive Director, can you confirm the quorum as well as the confirmation of public notice?
We do have a quorum and public notice was sent.
Okay, next item, do we have any requests for public participation?
We had one, but I'm not seeing them in the meeting.
Okay. Then let's move to the approval of the minutes of the meeting held on August the 18th, 2022. May I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Commissioner Sarr, I make a motion to approve those minutes.
There's a second. Okay, Commissioner Worth, that have done, all those in favor, either say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the minutes of the August 18th meeting are in fact approved. So the next item on the agenda is to move to the Executive Director's report.
So before I start, the person who was coming for public comment just made it in as the minutes were being approved.
Okay, well, let's back to that, and let's hear from that person. So will you introduce them?
So we have Daniel Grossberg, who wanted to join and just make a comment in public comment period.
Okay, Mr. Grossberg, you have 5 minutes.
I don't need 5 minutes, but thank you. My name is Daniel Grossberg. I am the state representative-elect for the 30th District, Kentucky House of Representatives, And I just wanted to come and thank you all personally on behalf of the Jewish people of Kentucky for your very strong condemnation recently to the rise of anti-Semitism that's taking place in Kentucky politics, both in the Democratic Party and in the Republican Party. It's an issue that's been ignored for far too long, and far too many people are hoping that by ignoring it, it'll go away. But as I'm sure you're all aware, it's been growing exponentially in recent years, and it means the world to me to know that the Jewish people are seen and heard and valued by the Kentucky Commission on Human Rights. And just a very heartfelt thank you from all of us that you guys are willing to condemn it, because I know it's not politically popular to condemn it when it comes from elected officials and political parties. But even just the other day, we learned of yet another incident. Joe Sanka tweeted that a candidate has filed for office as a write-in who wrote a sequel to Mein Kampf called My Struggle Too, in which he blames the Jews for all the problems in America, just as the Germans were right in blaming the Jews prior to World War II. So I invite you all to take a deep breath as you go ahead, because I know that your work isn't easy, but I'm repeating myself. It means the world to me to know that you guys are willing to stand up and speak up on an issue that's not going to go away and that is not popular to address. But that's all I have to say. You have a partner. That part should be obvious in the Kentucky legislature. I'm happy to work with all of you. But if you have any questions, I can answer any questions. And if not, I will just excuse myself and wish you all a very good day.
Well, let me say on behalf of the commission is that, we see our role as being defenders and protecting human rights, civil rights in this state. And I think we take seriously the charge and the statute that created this body. And the statement that we issue was, as I think all the commissioners would agree, was a direct outgrowth of our commitment to what the commission was founded on and what it stands for. And so we welcome the opportunity to work with you going forward, and know that this is something we're not going to back away from, regardless of how unpopular it may be to some. I think that our job is to be that force for change in Kentucky, and we plan on implementing that role. With that, I'm saying, any commissioner want to say anything or ask any questions or anything?
I'll just say, first of all, Representative Grossberg, nice to meet you.
That's a joke for those who don't know. I've known him since he was a teenager.
I want to thank you for being here on behalf of the Jewish community to share the appreciation. It's, I think, sometimes very important to hear that feedback. We certainly hear enough of the negative. It's good to hear the positive as well. And we look forward to working with you.
All right, with that, I will excuse myself. Mr. Burst, thank you for your statement as well. Rabbi, as always. Yes, I know that there's been pushback on you all. Anyone who ever speaks up against anti-Semitism gets pushback, because there's an exception for why this anti-Semitism is acceptable, and this is a misunderstanding, and this is an accident. But it's important to have an organization that will speak up every time without any exception. And if you guys need anything from the legislature, I'm a huge supporter of the Kentucky Commission on Human Rights, always have been, but now even more so, knowing that you guys took this stand even in the face of political pushback. So thank you all. You have a great day. If you need my private contact info, you can get it from Terrence or from the rabbi. And as I said, I look forward to working with you all. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay, Terrence, back to the executive director's report.
So good morning, everybody. I did want to start with a brief recognition. And I know that you also wanted to address everyone, Commissioner Fuentes, but I wanted to start as we like to do when we want to thank someone for their service. We like to do a resolution in honor of them. And I wanted, Juan, are you on? Yes. Okay. So we put together a resolution that we will sign and send to you or present to you when we can see you in person. But I did want, if you didn't mind, for you to read it for everyone to hear, and then we can talk a little bit about what the reason for this and thank you for what you've done for the commission. So Juan.
Good morning, commissioners and director. So I will read the resolution. The Kentucky Commission on Human Rights resolution acknowledging the service of Commissioner Luis David Fuentes. To all who this presents should come. Whereas Luis David Fuentes was appointed and has served as a commissioner for the Kentucky Commission on Human Rights since October the 8th, 2018. And whereas Commissioner Fuentes has worked to safeguard the rights of all people in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and whereas Commissioner Fuentes continues to stand as a strong advocate for the Hispanic population and representative for justice and a voice for equality. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Kentucky Commission on Human Rights expresses the gratitude of the many staff and fellow commissioners who have had the opportunity to work with Luis David Fuentes, and commends him for his outstanding and distinguished service from October of 2018 through September of 2022 as a commissioner of the Kentucky Commission on Human Rights. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be presented to Luis David Fuentes and spread upon the minutes book of this commission and dated in Louisville, Kentucky, this 15th day of September in the year 2022 and in the 230th year of the Commonwealth. On behalf of the commissioners, signed by Raymond M. Burst, Commissioner's Chair, and Terrence Sullivan, Executive Director.
Thank you.
For our Spanish audience and population in Kentucky, I've been asked to interpret in Spanish, so I'm gonna do my best to do in Spanish here. La Comisión de Derechos Humanos de Kentucky presenta esta resolución reconociendo el servicio del comisionado Luis David Fuentes, a quien corresponda la siguiente. Mientras Luis David Fuentes fue nombrado y ha servido como comisionado para la Comisión de Derechos Humanos de Kentucky desde el 8 de octubre del 2018 y mientras el comisionado Fuentes ha trabajado para proteger los derechos de toda la gente en el estado de Kentucky, y mientras el comisionado Fuentes continúa a trabajar forzosamente para la población latina y representa la justicia y una voz para una equidad. Y ahora, pues, que quede resuelto que la Comisión de Derechos Humanos de Kentucky expresa su gratitud de parte de todos los empleados de la comisión y los colegas de los comisionados que ha tenido la oportunidad de trabajar con Luis David Fuentes, y recomienda y agradece este trabajo excelente y distinguido por su servicio desde el octubre del 2018 hasta el septiembre 2022 como comisionado de la Comisión de Derechos Humanos de Kentucky. En suma, que quede resuelto que una copia de esta resolución sea presentado por Luis David Fuentes y guardado en las minutas de la comisión en la fecha en Louisville, Kentucky, el 15 de septiembre en el 2020-21, en el año 230 del estado de Kentucky, firmado por el presidente de la Junta Directiva de la Comisión de Derechos Humanos de Kentucky, Raymond M. Burst, y el director ejecutivo de la Comisión de Derechos Humanos de Kentucky, Terrence Sullivan.
Gracias.
Gracias. And thank you, Commissioner Fuentes, for your service.
Thank you very much. If I have a couple of minutes.
Before you do that, Luis, let me, first of all, let me, from a procedural standpoint, the resolution needs to be authorized and adopted by the commission itself. So can I have a motion to authorize and approve the resolution which has been read?
I very proudly make a motion to recognize that resolution.
And second by Commissioner Worth. All those in favor, aye, or your hands up.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's approved unanimously. So Terrence, why don't you explain the basis for why that was done, and then we'll hear from Luis.
So Commissioner Fuentes's appointment expires this month, and he expressed to me that he wanted to fulfill his commitment as appointed. And then at the conclusion of that appointment, he was going to step away and focus on the work that he's been doing, and especially with the growing population that we have in Kentucky, and to have more time to commit to that work. And so we wanted to commend him for that. And I also wanted to take time out today to just thank him for his service that he's done to the commission. I know for me personally, he was the first commissioner to come and meet with me when I took this position, and we had a great conversation about doing more work and outreach in the Hispanic community. And that's something that he's been very strong on since he's been here. And I've appreciated his support and guidance in that area, and just really advocating and teaching me a lot on some of the things that the changing population of Kentucky, and I've learned so much. And so I wanted to take time out from my report just to make sure that he had that time, and for us to all honor him, and then for him to be able to share. He asked if he could share a little bit with everyone at the beginning of the meeting. And so I wanted to make sure that we took time to do that.
Thank you, Terrence. Thank you to everybody. As you mentioned, during the last 4 years, I have been serving the commission. Last September 12th marked the expiration of my term, which I have decided to finishing.
Okay.
Are you listening to me?
Commissioner Glenn, could you mute your phone?
Okay. And the main reason is my time is actually very limited, because the number of Hispanic people coming to this city. I have been working really hard with my community, especially the Cuban American community. Just for giving you an idea, during the last 6-7 months, an average of between 800 Cubans have been coming through the Kentucky Refugee Minister every month. And these guys, they need help. So I think that, I need to put more attention on these guys, that they come with anything and they need information. I'm working very close with the Kentucky Refugee Minister. So I have decided to, dedicate my time full to, my publication on this community. To this community, or to this country, to this state, I owe too much. It has been a privilege, to serve and represent my community, and also serve the Commonwealth. Even when all the bad things that the media talks about this country, even with the opinion that both extreme, political extreme text, tell every day, and even what the professors and the teachers are telling every day to our students in schools. This is the best country around the world. I love this country. There is no any place on the world where a minority group, like a LGBT group, or Afro-American, or Hispanic, or any kind of group, have the rights, the opportunities, the protection from the government. I'm coming from a different country. I have been around the world. I'm telling you that like these things are working in this country, it's not working anywhere. And why I'm telling that? Because like a friend of mine used to say, behind the browns, behind the blacks, there is some white hands with green money and red interest trying to destroy this country. So I'm asking you to be smart. I'm asking you to any decision that you take, think twice. Just follow what is inside of your soul. Just follow what God tells you, and be careful, because this group, they want the power, they want the control, and they want to, again, destroy this wonderful country. So again, it has been a privilege being here for these 4 years. I really appreciate what you have been doing. I encourage you to keep doing, the best job, because I love America. So God bless America. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that. Any comments or reactions from any commissioners who would like to speak? Okay, hearing none, we're back to you, Terrence.
So this will be really brief today. I wanted to share a little bit more elaborating of what I had discussed previously about our increase from HUD, just to kind of explain it a little bit on the financial side. In the past year, in 2021, our total from HUD was $161,100. Through some of the work that we've done this past year and some of the conversations and meetings I've had with them, our total for 2022 will be $278,720. And the way that shakes out is we got roughly 168 or 166,800 dollars for our case processing. So that was the cases that we processed last year for the 41 that we completed. With our contract of 40 cases, we have one extra. And then there's also the cases that we went back and found some of the documentation that wasn't completed properly, it wasn't uploaded properly, that I had said that I wanted to go back and do. And I redid those, identified some of those older cases and submitted those. So that was the other $67,000 came from that. We get $32,000 next year, or this coming year, this year, for our administrative costs, which covers some of our work that we're doing and pay and all of that. We have $29,920 in training funds. And so we can use that to put on training for staff, or to attend training for staff or commissioners on fair housing issues. And so that money can be used for really any type of, we have HUD trainings that we like to attend. And so those costs, sometimes some of them cost up to $1,000. And so we're able to use those funds for that specific training. We also are getting $25,000 in partnership funds. Our previous partnership funds was $13,000, but with some of the changes that we've made in practices internally on how we focus on cases, they've upped our partnership allotment. And what that means is the partnership funds, every year, there's a programmatic area or theme that they want you to be able to spend that money for. And what that means for this year is one of the things that they're looking at as a theme that we can spend the money on is putting out awareness or addressing violations in housing appraisals and some of those things that we talked about in the redlining conversation that we had a few months ago. And a few of you asked what could our role be in looking at the issues in property values or appraisals and some of the disparities that we see there. And so it was really interesting that was one of the themes this year of what we can use that money on. Is we can use it to have someone look into, possibly pay someone to come up with a plan on looking into that, or we can have a forum or an event or a conversation covered by HUD to talk about a little bit more in depth about those disparities and what that looks like and what are some possible solutions. And so I was really excited to hear that was the theme this year with those funds. And then the last portion is 25,000 in C funds, which is the special enforcement funds. And what we can use that for is really technology or support for the legal unit and legal cases. So things that have had probable cause determinations and then moving those through. And so it's really restricted to technology or any type of people. And so what we're using that for is some technology to make it where we can do a little bit more effective work when we're working outside of the office. So we've got a few notebooks. We can use it for, I expressed that we're going to be using it for getting some guidance on some of the trial prep and trial strategies for some of the cases, the trials that we have coming up. And so we'll be able to bring in an expert to help and talk about fair housing practices in the legal sense and how we can use those to better serve the people who are using this agency. And so I just wanted to thank everybody for making that possible and all the work that we've done. I know that everybody here has been really challenged with work. We have a lot. We don't have the people, but we're still able to make things happen. And so being able to get those extra funds from HUD is proof of that. And that also is proof of our relationship that we're building there. And so the conversations I've had, I have another one right after this meeting with our HUD person, but we're finding ways to really improve that relationship even more and strengthen it, and to also identify other funds that we can use. Two of those sets of funds weren't available to us before, but through some conversation, we've been able to make that happen. And there are other things that should be coming up in the future that we can make work as well. The other thing I wanted to update you all on, I mentioned it before, but it's finally, Georgetown has finally finished appointing their commission. And so I'll be working with them on putting their local commission together. I'm meeting with the city attorney in the next 2 weeks to talk about what they're going to do. And then we're going to put together a bigger conversation with the new commission. One of the other things that I wanted to go through just briefly is we talked to before about the jail policy advisory committee. We're having another meeting on the 19th, and we're going to talk about some of the new ideas that came from the symposium that I told you all about last month, but also some of the things that people have been working on and some of the ways that we can address disparities there. And so if anyone, just letting you all know of the date, if anyone wants to join in, I can share the meeting invitation and all of that. And so I wanted to bring that up. And then that's pretty much all from my end this month. We're doing we're really in the push of getting through the contract for EEOC, which ends this month. And so it's been a lot. We have a lot, and everybody is just doing a lot of work, and it's very difficult. And we had our all staff the other day, and I wanted to, thank them for all that they've been doing, and also wanted to express that in front of you all. it's been very challenging with some of our changes and some of the demands and the increase in things that are filed. And so just making you all aware that their workload is very high, but everyone is doing a good job and working through all of those challenges and really moving full speed ahead.
Are there any questions for Terrence? Okay, hearing none, let's move on to the budget and personnel report.
Good morning. You have my report before you. Before I field questions, I will address the 43% year-on-year variance in the numbers. That's primarily driven by three categories. Number one, payroll costs due to the raise, which includes salaries and retirement mostly, and due to the increase in staffing. The second is the employment settlement. And the third is we had to hold off on paying our rent and utilities for 3 months because of new building ownership had to be approved by Real Properties in the finance cabinet. So I wasn't able to make those until the new fiscal year, and it all showed up in 1 month. So if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to field those at this time.
No question.
Go ahead.
No, I just have, I had one quick question. This is Commissioner Sarr about the moving forward with the budget, and are there any new budget requests that are going to be appearing in the budget in regards to personnel, hiring any additional personnel, or no, based on the amount of money in the budget?
Not hiring any additional personnel at this point. That'll be done in January. There is a salary, a compensation proposal from the personnel cabinet for current personnel. That includes a couple action items, a 6% pay increase for fiscal year 24, a possible review of some of these salaried positions, one of which would be we're working on with the enforcement officers. And then third, it's a proposal to allow employees to cash out at the end of the year some of their annual time. So those will all be discussed in January during the upcoming budget session and beforehand in the committee meetings. So I'm sure Terrence will be represented there, and he has ongoing discussions with members of the legislature.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We certainly do hope to add employees in the future.
Any question from any other commissioners? Brandon, we're the workers' comp, which is on page 26, is E131. Is that just comp insurance, or do we have some issues with employees and where we're paying workers' comp?
Both. It is workers' comp insurance, and we did have a workplace accident.
Okay.
A minor workplace accident. So the answer is yeah.
I'm looking. I got one more. Look at my note. That's it. I think you explained that.
Yeah.
The overage, and so I guess I'm okay with that. And then just looking at the August overspend versus what was budgeted. So I'm expecting that over the course of the remainder of this fiscal year, that will all balance out.
we are projected to go a little bit over budget, but as we have excess federal funds, we'll probably have to make a request at the end of the year. But I expect it will even out more than the 7%, I believe is that it currently is.
Okay. Thank you for that. Let's move on to enforcement unit. Is Cynthia going to do that, Terrence?
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning. I first wanted to reiterate what Terrence said and thank the investigators and the enforcement staff in their push to meet the federal contracts, the EEOC and the HUD contracts. I would like to make one correction to the case recommendations that were provided to you. Case 9466E, Sloan versus Dollar General. It's listed in the case recommendations as an administrative closure, and it actually is a withdrawal without settlement. We present to you this month 2 administrative closures, or one now, one none, no jurisdiction closure, 25 NPC closures, 1 PC closure with a conciliation, 1 other closure with a conciliation, and now 6 withdrawals without settlement for 35 cases. And I will accept any questions that you may have on any of the cases that were submitted.
Good morning. This is Commissioner Sarr. I just had one quick question, but it's about a procedural question. It was mentioned in one of the cases when you contact an individual and then they don't return messages or calls. What is the procedure for contacting them? Is it a letter? Is it a phone call? Email? I mean, what is the procedure? Because one of the cases stated that it was dismissed because the person did not respond.
All of the above. The investigators make phone calls, they send out letters. If there's an email that's provided, they send out emails trying to get the response. Certified letters can go out to try to get responses. And if there's no contact, then they've done pretty much all that they could do to reach out. So all of those things that you mentioned are attempted.
And we also have we have a people finder service that we use to find any contacts that we might be able to use to get with them, as well as people that they are associated with. And then each of our federal partners, they also have specific guidelines on how not only the methods you use to try to contact someone, but how often. For example, HUD, for not being able to contact someone, you have to have 4 attempted calls to a home line, 4 calls to a cell phone. Then you have to have certified letters returned. There's a long process just to make sure that we're not just missing someone, but someone is pretty much actively trying to not respond.
Okay.
Any questions? You get your answer, Commissioner Sarr?
Yes, and I was just wondering, I know you said that there's a certain amount of times that you contact them and not to waste resources or time. Is there a time frame? Like you give them 30 days, 20 days to respond, 10 days? You know, what's the time on that?
So it's really specific. It's kind of specific to what you're doing. But we do have a letter that says we'll email a letter that gives you 10 days and also mail a letter that gives you 10 days, even just to make contact, just to even call back and say, hi, we still want to keep doing this. And we generally will send that. Sometimes it will be a year later. It's not where we've had contact with someone and then they don't respond to us for a month and we consider them written off. It's if it's been a prolonged non-responsiveness. And so it doesn't necessarily, it's not something where it would be a 30-day period of not hearing back from someone. It's just if over the course of an investigation, a lot of these, we've conducted a full investigation trying to engage with them each time. And then throughout that year or whatever of having this investigation go on, they haven't responded. And then at the end of the investigation, we would say, okay, we've concluded this portion, we need you to weigh in. You have this amount of time to respond, then they don't. And then we'll try again another method, give them a little bit of time to respond, then they don't. And so at the end, when we're doing the final one, then they get another 10 days from that final outreach to respond. And then if they don't, then that's when we would move forward.
Thank you.
Along those lines, the case 9281E, it's on page 111 in the book. Tell me, given what the ELC did in March of 2021, why is it taking us this long to get to where we are in terms of today's recommendation?
Let me see if I'm not really sure, Chair, as far as the timing. Addie, are you here?
Yes. What's the case name?
Can you answer that question?
What's the case name?
The case is Burgess versus Parsons Electric Inc., 9281E.
I had difficulty getting in touch with the complainant.
I'm sorry,
So-
did you couldn't get in touch with the complainant? Is that what I heard?
I had difficulty getting in touch with the complainant.
So we held that from March of 2021 till now?
Yes.
You know, the ELC had resolved this case in March of 2021. And it seemed to be the same facts. The claims were filed on the same factual pattern. You know, of course, they use a federal statute for the ELC and use the state statute for Kentucky. But if the conclusion is what is there, I'm just trying to understand why it's taking so long. So one of the things that I think to say, and it's been discussed by several commissioners in meetings in terms of clearing some of these backlogs and addressing some of those issues as it relates, you know, that one just stands out like a sore thumb in terms of doing stuff, getting stuff done more timely. And I think that was one, Terrence, I'm going to request specifically that you look at and provide back a more detailed explanation around what took place and why did it take place. In addition to that, I would like you to tell me or find from our peer agencies or other states, Tennessee, Indiana, Missouri, or what have you, what the average caseload per investigator is in their state and what their backlogs or days pending looks like, so we can do some comparisons. And that's all of my questions I got, I guess, as it relates to the report. And before I ask for a motion to approve the recommendation, based on the discussion last week, Terrence, as a part of this, do we need to authorize you as the executive director to approve the outcome of any reconsiderations for submittal before the end of this month?
I think that would be sufficient, yes.
Okay. So what did I need? Requesting a motion to approve the case recommendations for the staff and authorize the executive director to approve the outcome of any reconsiderations so as to be able to do the proper filing before the month of September. Can I, a motion to that effect?
So moved.
there a second? It's getting moved. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hands up as well. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
I apologize. I'm doing notes too. I didn't see who seconded that motion. Can I get that? Sometimes I can't hear it on the recording.
It was Commissioner.
Put Jim Glenn in as second.
Thank
If you don't
you.
have it listed.
Okay. Okay, next on our agenda is the
what is that you got there?
is Education and Outreach Unit. Mary Ann?
Good morning. I don't have anything additional to add to the report you have in your commission, the larger commission report. Of course, if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. I would, however, like to highlight a couple of things that we did this past month. Over the weekend, the Labor Day weekend, we did participate in World Fest here in Louisville. Juan Pena and I were able to set a booth there. We actually ran out of our handouts by the end of the second day. So we consider that to be a success. That means people did come by our table and stop and speak with us. We've even had some follow-up since then. Had a gentleman email me some information about his organization. We made some new partnerships while we were there. So that was a success all around. In addition to that, even though we are inundated with intake work, we're still out there training. I did a fair housing training yesterday for Highland Terrace, which is a senior community here in Louisville, Kentucky. And I have done trainings with them now over the past almost 10 years. And we had a 2-year break due to COVID. So it was nice to be back in person and meet any new staff that was there. And that is Underhill. If you've heard of Underhill Properties, that's who we were with. And Juan actually did a training, I believe it was last week, where he had 40 persons in attendance from Kentuckiana Works. And that was an employment training. So we are still out there training and doing workshops and setting tables and booths. So I'm really proud of our unit. John is still managing to make it to as many commission meetings in Northern Kentucky as he can. And Glenda is still continuing to carry the lion's share of employment intake. So that is my report in conclusion. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Next is the report of the legal unit. Joe?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. You have my report, just some quick notes on it. At the top of the report, we have two relatively old cases that have been sitting. We've been trying to find somebody to collect from, and the businesses are now defunct, long gone. The owners are no longer in business, and so the possibility of recovery in those cases is slim. We've notified the complainants that further collection efforts will have to be done on a private individual basis. The commission is not in the business of debt collection. Unfortunately, we don't have enough staff. So we've notified them, and we're going to remove those from our report next month. The cases are effectively closed. We've done what we can. We've got a couple other things. We've got recent cases that have been charged. We had a charge on 8/16 of a case, Page, on behalf of a minor child out of Bowling Green. We are in negotiations with them, but we are charging cases and moving them forward. Another update in section 1C, the case of Jones. is a recent PC charge that we are actually finalizing a settlement in, a 5-figure settlement in that case. And so we are not only charging cases, but settling them relatively quickly and getting good results for our complainants. Just in the past 3 months, we've recovered approximately $60,000 in several cases total. So we're seeing good results there. A couple other cases to be closed. We've got some settles, conciliations on some older housing cases. We've got a new housing case, Brown, that we are currently in discovery on. We're awaiting Court of Appeals decision in the McKenzie case that's been going for a long time. That has been moved to the merits panel in that case, and we're just awaiting their decision. Update on the amicus efforts. Our amicus brief, as I mentioned last month, was filed in Joyce Turner versus Norton Healthcare. Responses from the parties to our motion to file that brief are due today. The plaintiff told us they do not oppose our motion. We might get an opposition from the defendant in that case, but typically the motions are granted. And the commission, of course, has an institutional role in this in the Kentucky Civil Rights Act. So we don't anticipate a firm response from Norton or a denial. Update on the Gary Payne case. We're going to file an amicus brief in that as well next week. We moved to intervene in that case under a rule that gives agencies a chance to intervene in cases where they have statutory authority. Generally, those motions are denied, and ours was as well. The court has great discretion to grant or deny such a motion. It's purely permissive, and we made an effort to intervene so we get a shot at oral argument and an additional brief space, but they denied it yesterday. So we're going to file an amicus brief as we originally planned, and that will get filed next week. Our deadline is middle of, I think, Wednesday. So we'll file on Monday or Tuesday and get that before the court. I think that's about it. We have 3 cases set for closure. Like I said, we have another case that we're finalizing a settlement, but it's not quite ready for closure. But yeah, so we've got 3 cases coming off our docket. We've added a couple PC charges, and we're now addressing some older cases that have been sitting dormant, some housing cases that have been sitting for a very long time from my predecessor. And we're getting those, removing those. A couple of them are probably going to go to litigation, and the rest will be NPC'd. But we are seeing movement there too. So I just want to give, as always, a shout out to Colt Sells, who is securing some really great settlements for complainants and getting these cases closed. So kudos to Colt as always. I'll answer any questions you have.
Any questions for Joe from any of the commissioners? Okay, hearing none, go to committee. Thanks. I don't think there are any new business. Okay, hearing none. Again, our next meeting will be on October the 20th. So just be aware of that. If there are any agenda items or anything you would like to have discussed during that meeting, or for information that you require, please let the executive director know, as well as myself, and we'll add that to the agenda. I'll also just bring up, following up on our discussion last week, we're still pushing forward to trying to find a time, place, agenda, and process to have a full-blown sort of strategic work session to talk about the commission operational and where we are in terms of where the things are, so as to better streamline functions and responsibilities in terms of going forward. So just be aware that that is coming, and we're working on that to make certain we get that done. Is there anything or any matter any commissioner would like to bring up at this particular point in time? Anything else from you, Terrence?
No, I just was going to say I do have a meeting tomorrow with some potential facilitators. So I'll let you all know where that goes.
Okay.
Commissioner, see, there's a message from Commissioner Henry that she would like to speak in the chat stream.
Okay, I didn't see it. Commissioner Henry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, that must have been by error. I have nothing to say. Thank you.
If there are no other further business become before the body, may I have a motion to adjourn? Okay. Moved by Commissioner Worth. Is there a second?
Seconded by Rabbi.
Okay, it's been second that we adjourn. All those in favor say aye or raise your
Aye.
hand. Okay, motion carries and we are adjourned. So, thank you all for your participation and involvement today. Again, the next meeting is on October the 20th, and in between, we'll be updating you regarding a strategic work session in terms of focus of direction of it. So thank you all, and you have the rest of your morning back.